Anyway, so this is
What is that?
when I take notes, this is a 6 of hearts hive. But the problem with these cards is sometimes the bees find them and think it needs to be taken out. So you can see that's all the bees chewing it. That's not a mouse that's chewed it or anything. That's what the bees have done.
There's a bee right there.
So these are all extra frames that when I got this hive ready for winter, the bees didn't need these frames.
Is there honey in there?
Nope.
What is that?
Nope, they're just empty. That's comb that they've built. But it's just empty. There might have been some honey in there and they cleaned it out. Now, you see how these are kind of funny shaped, how this is at the bottom? That's I was talking earlier about comb collapse. So this is where the comb when the comb was soft, it got really warm in here and it was probably full of honey at the time, so it was heavy. And so it just broke and slid down.
Will they fill that in, you think?
They will,
okay.
Yeah. And this isn't, that's not a bad case. You know, sometimes it'll collapse, just get all over the place. And you can have a colony that'll die out if it collapses too bad.
I want to see one that has honey.
Yeah, I'll pull some that have honey. Now, I have this screwed in here so that when we move these, the frames aren't sliding all around. I don't normally have that screwed in place.
That bee looks like it's... Oh, that has hot pollen on it.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where did he get pollen from?
Yeah, something's blooming around here.
Don't know if they have,
Daffodils.
Could be.
Well, if there's, if they sting you like in the hand, will like every single bee try to sting you?
No, not necessarily. And that's when, if you get stung in one place, you can take the smoker and smoke that spot to kind of cover up that smell. And that's really what the smoker does anyway, is if the bees start getting
start
getting a little defensive, then then you can use the smoker.
Cool.
Bees' main methods of communicating are through scent.
Oh, look, it's going through the hole to go to the other one.
That's why we use scents to attract the bees, like the lemongrass oil.
Cool.
And but when they get
Is that honey or not?
when they get defensive, then they can they give off a scent that smells kind of like banana Laffy Taffy.
Oh yeah, I love the sound of...
So if you're in a hive and you smell bananas or banana candy,
How are they not stinging you?
well, they're not like immediately wanting to sting you. So you can see some nectar in there. You see the shiny stuff in there?
Is that honey?
Yes, that's nectar. So they take the nectar, they store up the nectar when those cells are full. There's a small hive beetle right there. We don't
Is that bad?
we don't like small hive beetles.
Where?
He's underneath these bees now. Yeah, they store up the nectar. When those cells are full, then they'll put wax cap over top.
Why are they putting their heads in there?
Well, either they are putting more nectar in there, or they've opened up these cells and they're drinking nectar out of there to take it and feed it to the queen or to young bees. So,
Where's the queen?
but the difference between nectar and honey is that nectar is still very liquid, and honey, they have taken out about 80% of the moisture.
Where's the queen?
Well, she's in here somewhere. So there's a whole bunch of bees working on nectar cells. So
This is cool.
the other difference, I mean, nectar is just as it comes from the flowers, but honey, you don't stand right in front of the entrance. Move around here to the end. I'll show you stuff.
Dad, can you come over here with me?
So as they bring nectar back into the hive,
Oh, look, all of them have like nectar.
one bee will come in and pass nectar from her stomach to another. They pass it through their mouth from one bee to another, and then they do that, pass it from bee to bee to bee until it finally gets to the last bee who stores it.
But when they
do that, it adds enzymes to it that helps give the health benefits for honey.
Yeah, but when they collect like nectar or pollen, does that make honey?
No, they don't make honey from the pollen. They store the pollen, and when I see some pollen, I'll show you. So these cells, when we started winter, these cells at the top were all capped honey. And now they've opened them and they're using up some of that honey to feed the hive.
A bee's almost stand my finger. Cool.
You know, sometimes they'll bump into you, and that's all they're doing is just bumping into you.
Wow.
Wait, so is that nectar all that shiny stuff?
All that shiny stuff.
What if I touch them?
Go.
I'm looking in here to see what in these cells that I might show you. Not much. Okay. We're doing here some brood. I'll show you that. Brood is just baby bees.
I want to see baby blue.
So bees, so who can tell me, cleaning all this gunk out.
Oh, there's the honey in
Is
there.
that
I can see
propolis?
nectar.
Is that what that's
Well,
called?
there's
can
some
see honey in
propolis.
there.
There's also some frass on here
I can
from,
see honey in there.
could be
Yeah, don't
from,
stand in front of the entrance.
yeah, don't stand in front of the entrance.
But I can see honey.
No, I'm not talking to you. But this is, some of that's frass from like wax moths.
I can see honey in there.
All right, let me get this out and see what we got. Oh yeah, we got good brood on here. So if you look at this, these cells that are capped here, that's called capped brood. So you know how like a butterfly has what? They have a caterpillar, you know, and then the caterpillar goes into a cocoon, and then when it comes out of the cocoon, it's a butterfly. Well, you look in those cells, you see those little white things in those cells?
Oh, those are larvae.
Those are larvae, yeah, little curled up larvae in there. You see them?
Yeah.
So that's like the caterpillar. And when they grow up into their pupa stage, then those cells get capped over. And you see how these caps, they look almost like a gauze, kind of like a cotton gauze, because they're made so that air can get through. When they cap honey, they just use wax, so it's sealed, air doesn't get in there. But that's brood. You can see on this side there's a lot more brood. You see all that capped brood over there?
I can see honey though.
You can see some nectar in there. Yeah, you see nectar across the top there. And like I said, when it's uncapped, unless you test the moisture content, it's hard to tell if it's honey or nectar. So usually if I see it uncapped, I call it nectar. If it's capped, I call it honey.
How big is the queen?
She's a little bit longer than the
yeah,
worker bees.
that's a bunch of capped brood.
A lot of capped brood on there. Yeah, very good.
There's a lot more on the other side.
I'm kind of looking to see if I happen to see the queen in here. Oh, in here, you look in these cells at the bottom here. Here, move. Step back. I'll turn it so you can see it. You see that light-colored stuff down in those cells?
Yeah.
You see that there,
Yeah.
Lily? Light-colored stuff in those cells?
Yeah.
You see down in these cells some light-colored
Yeah.
stuff? That's the pollen. They store the pollen and they mix it with nectar, and that's called bee bread.
Wow. What's on the other side?
Oh, there's a whole bunch.
So we've got,
yeah.
Wow.
and they, I can set this down without smishing a bee here. Okay. You see how it makes kind of a bullseye pattern, how it kind of like goes around, and then there's a half circle there,
Yeah.
and then more. That's because the queen will generally start in the, well, sort of in the middle, and she'll work her way out, and she gets to the outside. So this is probably first generation brood, and then these emerged, and the queen came back and laid again, and so this is kind of like second generation brood.
Okay.
If I see the queen, I'll point her out to you.
Okay.
If you see like a really big bee on there, she moves a little different. You almost like she almost looks like a roach moving around in there. Her body is longer than her wings. That's one way to spot her.
Oh, what is that red stuff in there? In that corner?
I don't know about the rest of, see all this sticky looking stuff on the end?
Yeah.
That is sticky stuff. That's called propolis. They use that to seal up the hive.
There's like red stuff, like tomato red
Oh, I don't know.
in the top corner.
Could just be some, might be some red pollen that got caught up in the propolis.
Okay.
If you were to accidentally squish a bee, it wouldn't like set off the rest of them.
It can. When you smash a bee, it gives off a scent that causes alarm reaction in the other bees. But generally squishing one bee doesn't set it off. I usually try to avoid squishing bees regardless.
Right.
What happens if you eat the propolis?
But, oh, nothing really. Supposedly
Does it taste good?
the ancient Egyptians used to chew on propolis like gum. It's supposed to clean their teeth. Here, I'll show you. So I can turn this around without losing track of it.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it's like really popping out on that other
You see
side.
this little fuzzy bee crawling around here? That's one that just recently emerged from her capped cell.
Cool.
There's two of them right there.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch.
But their backs look more white and fuzzy, whereas the older ones, their backs are, darker.
I see they're all bringing in pollen.
Yeah, lots of pollen.
They'll have to work a lot.
Yes, they do. You know how long a worker bee usually lives during the spring and summer season?
No.
You guess. So a
Probably
worker
like
bee,
2 years.
when they emerge, when a worker bee emerges from their cell, some of the first jobs will be to clean out the cells and carry out dead bees. So if bees die in the hive, they have to carry those out. And then they'll start feeding the young bees. They become what's called nurse bees when they feed the young bees. And they first feed the older larvae, and then as they get bigger and kind of learn what they're doing, they feed the younger larvae. And then they become guard bees. They help to guard the entrance. And then they become, for the last half of their life, they become foragers, which means they go out and they look for nectar and pollen. And
Yeah, there was a one.
Oh, that one, there's like stuff sticking out of it. What's that?
which one?
Right there.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
those.
that's a good catch on those. Those are drone cells. So those are male bees. So those are the bees that once they emerge from there, they will go out to mate with queens from other hives.
Cool.
And so anyway, so in all those jobs that a worker bee does over her life, about how long do you think that life lasts?
Like 10 years.
15.
15 years? She's got
What do
10
you
years.
think, Lily? What's your guess?
What's your guess? How long does a worker bee live during spring and summer?
I don't know.
About
4 months.
about 45 days.
Month and a half, huh?
And then
They learn all that,
And they
and then they
die.
die, and then
Oh.
And in her lifetime, how much honey do you think one worker bee can make in her lifetime?
Like 1/6 of an ounce. Something.
10 pounds.
We got 1/6 of an ounce, 10 pounds. There's some brood on this end frame, which is unusual. Usually
Brood?
it's just honey on the end frame, honey and pollen.
Wow. Well, where's the queen?
There's brood on both sides of it.
Oh, is that pollen
stuff's falling out of it, yeah.
Yeah, if you see stuff dripping, that's nectar.
Well, nectar, but then there's also like these, is that just pollen
Yeah, yep, that's pollen.
that they probably just brought in? Or?
Losing their pollen, they haven't got it packed in there well. I haven't seen the queen, but when we inspect the hives, we don't always look for the queen. Okay, go ahead and move your fingers here.
There might be the queen in the other
Because
one.
what we want to look for is evidence of the queen, meaning that we see that they have brood, especially young brood, larvae. And we saw larvae, so we know that the queen's in there working. If we spend too much time looking for the queen, then we do get the bees disturbed and they can start to get a little defensive. But you can see if we work real gently with them.
Oh, you just did.
Yes, I did. If we work real gently with them, they're not too concerned about us being here.
You smashed one?
Yeah, in between the frames. And when bees get defensive, one of the first things they'll do before they sting is they bump you. So you might get a bee that'll fly up in your face and bump up against your veil. And she's just telling you, hey, back off, buddy. I got a sting and I'm not afraid to use it.
Is that a dead bee right there?
Oh, yep, caught up in the propolis. She was been in there a while.
So
Okay.
a bee was just bumping my phone. I wonder if it's still bumping me.
And sometimes they're just curious, kind of checking things out. And sometimes they're just clumsy. I've had people who are watching me do hive and they're kind of standing off in the distance watching me do hive inspections like, oh, the bees are starting to bump me. It's like, no, I think you're just in their flight path. If you watch the entrance of a beehive, the bees aren't the most coordinated things. Gotta move these carefully. If that bee, there you go, good job. So anyway, so I asked the question, how much honey can a bee make in her lifetime? You said like 1/6 of an ounce,
I said 10 pounds.
10 pounds.
One bee in her lifetime?
One worker bee in her lifetime.
How much honey?
How much honey can she make? How would you go for, you know how big a teaspoon is, right? How about 1/8 of that? So you took a teaspoon, divided into 8 portions. That's how much.
She bumped into me.
That's why you need 20,000 bees
Yep. Yeah.
to
So,
make
so it takes a
pint
lot of
honey,
bees.
a quart of honey.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, I mean, the bees are going to land someplace, so you never have to worry. Just because a bee lands on you doesn't mean that they intend to sting you.
When do they start making honey?
Well, pretty much when we get into what we call the nectar flow, which is when lots of flowers are blooming.
Are we going to look at the other one?
And the nectar flow varies throughout the season because different things bloom at different times.
That one wasn't on
Uh-oh. Yeah, little
What?
bee.
What if you squish the queen bee?
Well, then you got a problem because if a hive has eggs or young larvae, then they can make another queen. Otherwise, you have to provide them with a new queen, or you can provide them with brood that has eggs or young larvae from another hive, and they can use that to make a queen. But yeah, the queen is very important to the hive. Bad news if you squish
I
her.
got one that's pretty mad.
Will all the bees start stinging you?
You mean if you squish the queen?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. But, and you asked the question earlier about if you squish a bee, are the bees going to get mad and defensive? And like I said, squishing one bee, not necessarily. But I have moved bees. You know, I had like a bunch of bees in a swarm trap and was shaking, was it a swarm trap or anyway, moving from one box to another. I didn't realize that there were a bunch of bees hanging off the bottom of this box. And I took the box and I set it on top here and smashed about 100 bees. Then the hive got immediately defensive because that's a lot of.
Did you get stung a bunch?
I don't remember if they stung
Watch out,
me or
Lily.
not. But they certainly let me know that I was no longer welcome there.
Wait, did you screw the screws back in?
No,
was
you don't
fun.
need to.
That was just because he was moving it. He didn't want it to move around.
All right. So there I got propolis all over my fingers. All
Wax, huh?
sticky. Huh?
Like wax, kind of.
It's more sticky than wax.
Yeah.
Wax isn't so hard to take off. Propolis, it takes some scrubbing. Which is why a lot of people, even if they, oh, I need to put that strap back on. Even if they like working the bees without the heavy gloves, will often wear like a rubber glove, mechanic's glove, glove or something. So you can, for people who make tinctures, you can make a tincture out of propolis that's supposed to be real good, like real good for your throat, if you have any throat issues or something.
Yeah.
It's very, it's got strong, apparently antibiotic and antiseptic properties.
So how many frames, I didn't count, were in there?
You know what, I didn't count either. You know what, and I didn't even, well, they still had some empty space in there, but I might add one frame. Because I have a feeling we're going to get starting to the nectar flow soon.
Yeah.
So 7. And this one, that's a pretty good empty frame.
carry it over to the next one.
So I may not be recording right now, but if you watch my next video, you'll see these hives again.
Okay.
Last video I recorded was inspecting these hives at their other location.
And how long ago was that?
Probably about a week ago. Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, they're all coming back with pollen.
Yeah, pollen's been coming in like crazy this year.
Please. Hi guys. Dead Refuge Kids here. Please make sure to like and subscribe.
Right here.
Yeah, please make sure to like and subscribe to Homestead Refuge Kids.
So far, it looks like everything made the trip okay. Yeah. Well, see, this divider board has a little gap at the bottom, so the bees can go from, into this open part of the hive.
Wait,
So does this divider board is up higher?
You're right. The bees might have chewed it up.
This divider board's up higher. Does that, when the lid's on, does that not make it?
Well, yeah, and I had to cut them off because
Normally you have
with the ventilated lid, it's not a problem. But since I insulated that and put this, I have to make sure that my divider board doesn't stick up any more than 3/4 of an inch, because that's all the space I got there. And I had to cut a couple of my divider boards off. And this one, 7 frames.
Oh, what is that gray stuff?
This stuff at the top, that's honey. That's capped honey.
Honey. Gray stuff's honey. Don't you just like scrape it off once it's ready?
Well, to harvest it, hang on a second, I'm gonna look for the queen real
There's
quick.
some in there too.
So when you harvest it, you would scrape off that wax that's covering it, and then put it in a extractor that will spin the frame and spin the honey out.
How'd you get all the bees off though?
There's some pollen in there. Well, you brush those off when you take the frame out of the hive. Got some more pollen over here.
This one on me. Oh. Look. There's some on that. Is there honey on the other side?
Not much. Not as much as on that side.
It's on me. It's a bee. Cute little bee. It's a bee there. Like and subscribe for bees.
Yep.
There's some honey in there too.
Okay. Yeah, probably easier to have all 3 of you on that end to show you things. All right, so what do you see?
Honey, that corner and that corner.
Uh-huh.
And then a bunch of Capped.
We got probably uncapped honey here, but I would call it nectar because I don't know. One way we can tell if it's close enough to honey, lean back a little bit, Lily, is when I'm harvesting honey, if I see with these big frames, a lot of times when you're harvesting, you won't have a full frame that's capped. Sometimes you do, and that's wonderful. But sometimes you'll get a frame that's about 3/4 capped, and then there's still some open cells. So what I'll do
On the other side.
is I'll just take the frame and I'll hold it like this and see if it drips. And if it's not dripping, I call it honey.
It is dripping.
If it drips, then I say, well, it's not ready to harvest.
Yeah.
So we've got
So nice.
more capped brood. Usually on these frames, one side will be just like a mirror image of the other.
Mm-hmm.
There's a young bee. Lots of young bees here.
What happens if you eat that stuff?
Oh, nothing much. It probably won't taste very good. The reason that this comb is so dark rather than like a nice light yellow is because every time the bees go into their pupa, they make a chrysalis around themselves. And those chrysalises build up inside of those cells, and that's what makes those cells so dark. Now you can still, if the bees put honey in there, you can still harvest the honey from that, and the honey won't be affected by it.
Is there some in this?
It's just not as pretty as the nice yellow
No,
comb.
those are empty. Get in.
Why?
They're just extra frames.
Leave room for expansion.
So when I prepare the bees for winter, I consolidate down to give them just a number of frames that they need for winter. I don't want a bunch of frames that the bees are spread out on, or they're going to get too cold. So I give just enough frames that the bees can cover. And so I take the extras and put them in that end, and then they're handy right there for us to move over in spring. Some more capped brood. A little bit of nectar at the top. When we go into winter, like I said, I leave the bees enough frames that they can cover, but I also leave frames that have a band of honey at the top. And so that's what's left here.
Is that a young bee right there?
The bee's stuck in the hole.
Yep. Is it?
It's on the other
There's
side.
a little piece in there.
You know, I'll watch if I see a bee coming out of the cell.
Oh, that one looks
Point
weird.
it out.
That
Oh,
one has nectar in it. The bee's taking away
Look.
the nectar.
no, it could be.
What's on the other
That
side?
one, it's like its butt is whole black.
Well, and that happens. So everybody said, well, bees are yellow and black. But the only reason that bees have yellow on them is because they have little yellow hairs. As they get older, those hairs wear off, and then the bee looks like she's all black. So when you see a bee if you see a bee on a flower or something and she's all black,
Probably because
look,
it's old.
she's probably older. Look at her wings. Her wings will probably look all tattered. Kind of rough on the edges.
And that's all in 45 days of
All
her
in
life
45
cycle. huh?
days, yep. And really, that part of it,
Okay,
move your hands, please. That part of it happens within the last, the last 3 weeks, because before that, they're in the hive where it's nice and
Yeah.
safe and everything.
They only get to get out for the last 3 weeks of
Yeah.
their life. They're pretty amazing.
All right, so now we got
Oh,
some
there's
drone
some drones,
brood.
yeah.
Yep.
Wow, that's big. And
There's some drone larvae up there.
Isn't brood like the egg? We got the chrysalis.
Let me see if I can spot an egg in here. Eggs can be a little hard. That bump out, eggs just look like little bits of rice. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if there's a good way that I can show you. Maybe. Okay. Can you guys, down in some of these cells here, if you look in there, can you see well, now the bees are wanting to cover it, like little grains of rice at the very bottom of the cell? Those are the eggs. Can you see down in these, look in these cells, can you see like little grains of rice at the bottom?
Just don't stand in front of
hey,
the entrance.
Yeah, very tiny grains of rice. That's the eggs. And you can tell how long ago the queen laid the eggs by how they're positioned in the cells. On the first day, they're hard to see because they stand up in the bottom of the cell. So when you look down in that cell, you're just seeing the very end of it, like you're looking at the grain of rice from the end. So it's real small, just looks like a spot. But then on the second day, they start to tip over. On the third day, they're kind of laying down, and then they emerge into the larvae. And then you see little tiny C-shaped larvae, and then they grow from there. A quick scan to see if I can spot a queen in here.
So we just bit me. He landed on me. Go on my hand. Go on my hand. Feet. They're just all swarming me. All like critters.
I think that's nectar.
Probably because there's nectar.
I see lots of bees with pollen.
Yeah, that
This
one's
frame
lighter.
is pretty empty.
Well, that one has a lot of honey.
I think I think when I did my last inspection, I need to go back to the video. I think I added this frame. Pretty sure I did.
That one has a lot of honey.
And that's typical on the frame that's up against the end wall. It's usually a full frame of honey.
Do they poop at all?
Oh yes, they do.
Where?
They usually don't inside of the hive.
Is that a baby bee?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's some up there. There's some on the other side. Can't wait till we get our own honey. Is there any honey on the other side?
A little bit more honey on that side.
Like there's some honey.
Yep. You see the pollen in there?
Yeah.
Here, I'll turn it around. All the pollen stored up in here.
There's a bee carrying some pollen.
And this red stuff that's dripped on the side, that's not bee blood. That is, a lot of times you mark the queens, and you use different colors to identify what year the queen emerged in.
Hey, Homestead Refuge kids, give me a big smile. Lily, go over there. Give me a smile so I can take some pictures, and that'll be the...
So queens that emerged last year were marked with red.
Don't forget to
and I
like and
dripped my
subscribe.
ink.
And don't miss more of our bee videos with Suburban
Keep watching.
SodBuster.
Yeah, learn from SuburbanSodBuster.
No, that's Propolis. No, but in the spring, so if the bees don't poop inside the hive, and when the weather is cold during winter, the bees don't go outside. So what do you think they do?
Keep inside the hive.
No,
Hold it in.
they hold it, sometimes for weeks or months.
Oh.
And then what do you think happens on the very first warm day?
They go outside and poop.
Yeah, all over the place.
What is it even?
And so I sometimes come out to my truck, and I've got little goldish yellow lines of bee poop all over my truck,
I felt
or all over the hive. Actually, one of the first times I experienced it was the very first bee colony I got. And the way I got that colony was I did what's called a trap out to get the bees out of a tree. And so I set up this funnel on the outside of the tree so the bees could come out, but they couldn't go back in. And then I pumped smoke inside of the tree to force the bees to come out. And I had a bait hive, just like our swarm traps that we hung up. just on the outside, so when the bees came out and they tried to come back, they had someplace to go to instead of going into their hive. And it worked pretty well. But what happens? One thing that can happen when you smoke.
You gonna add one to that one too, or?
They've got a lot of empty. You know what? I will for good measure. But they've got quite a bit of empty space in there.
Yeah,
I'm not
why not?
too concerned about it. Yeah. But when you smoke the bees a lot, now this one actually has a little honey at the top. It's left over from last year.
That one?
No, this one. It's a nice yellow comb. We'll put that in there.
Oh, there's one bee on that side.
See a little honey left in there.
Mm-hmm.
But
These ones are empty.
when you smoke the bees a lot, they kind of go into emergency mode to say, okay, you imagine that there's lots of smoke and your house is burning down. What are you going to do?
Escape.
You're going to escape from your house. And you might, now you shouldn't, your more important thing is to get out, right? But somebody might say, you know what, before I get out of this house, I'm going to grab the thing that's most important to me. Well, if bees go to another hive, well, let me back up just a little bit. You know what bees, do you know what bees use to make wax?
The queen.
No. How do they make wax?
Dead bees.
No. They use honey. And so they eat honey, and then they have glands on their stomach, on their abdomen, that they secrete flakes of wax. And then they chew those flakes and connect them together to make their wax.
There's a lot of
Well, if they are going to go to another hive, if they have to leave their hive because it's burning down, and they're going to go to another hive, what do you think is one of the most important things they could take with them?
Honey.
Honey, so they can build a new comb when they get to their new home. So if these bees smell all this smoke and they think their home's burning down, they're going to grab the most important thing, which means they're going to fill up with as much honey as they can before they leave. And when the bees leave that hive and their stomachs are all full of honey, what do you think that makes them do?
Go to the back.
Yeah, what we were just talking about. So I learned this real quickly because I was blowing smoke into this hive, and all of a sudden the bees started pouring out, and I was wearing my jacket like your dad's there, and I looked down and my jacket was covered with all these yellow spots. That was my first lesson in bee poop. All right, so what do you think, guys?
Pretty cool. Pretty interesting, huh?
So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos with
SuburbanSodBuster.
Well, guess that'll be it for today.
Hopefully we catch our swarm and have a hive built
We'll
in
probably
the
make
next
another
month.
video with him next month. Thanks for watching. Bye.